Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynic Alex, and today I want to talk about the published probability or chance tables for the chests in the store, the kind of random chests that you can purchase for premium heroes, for comic cards, for custom gear, and also for ISO 8, because for whatever reason, whether it was Apple's new guidelines or some other pressured kind of incoming change, Netmarble decided to release on their official forum on Moburum, and I'll link to it in the description, the probability or the chance to get different items and the different quality of items that you can get from each of the chests. So previously, and this is a very big deal, guys, we didn't really know what the odds were. Is there a 1% chance? Is there a 5% chance of getting this CTP of Destruction or one of the other available gears? Is there a 99% chance to get one of these 1-star boosters? But we always had a sense based on how often we tried and based on watching other people try, whether you watched me or you heard through friends of their experiences, that the drop rates were generally very poor and not favorable, and it was essentially gambling, and it still is, and it hasn't changed anything. But I still wanted to take the time to address these numbers, to give them to you guys, and then to talk about the implications of the numbers. So I don't want to get into the exact details of every single number for every single chest, because the summation of it and the very short story is they're just really terrible, and the odds are super low that you're gonna get anything good, and they're even lower that you're gonna get something great. So unless you were someone who just wanted to get it and was going to spend a lot of crystals, having this information now is not going to change your attitude about purchasing or not purchasing these chests. I don't think that these numbers should change anyone's mind. It shouldn't make a non-spender into a spender. If anything, it's going to turn people away from the chest. But there is a positive side to this that I'll get to a little bit later. First of all, I want to cover the ISO 8 chest. This has the absolute worst odds overall, which is surprising because it's by far the worst chest to get. ISOs have so little impact on an individual character that it's really tough to imagine how many hundreds of ISOs you would need to have fully awakened to equal the effect of one perfect comic card. For example, you would probably need a whole set of awakened ISO. I'm talking 8 awakened ISO, which is worth like 150 regular ISOs just to equal the value of a CTP. So it really boggles the mind. But having said that, the rates, as you can see on the screen, are just terribly low. Just for any 6-star ISO, you're looking at 0.1% of a chance. It's just horrendous. And then once you factor in wanting to get a specific ISO 8, it's literally, you're literally throwing away your crystals. It's total garbage. You'd be better off just deleting the crystals somehow than actually purchasing this ISO 8 chest. It's completely and totally worthless. You shouldn't even be on this page by accident, and I'm scared to be on this page myself right now. The next one I want to cover is the premium hero chest. I think that the ISO 8 chest and the premium hero chest are the two least purchased chests in the game. Of course, there was all the drama from 3.6 about the premium hero chest and how it had the ultimates in it. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. They're gone. Luna Snow is in it now, but obviously no one needs to purchase this to get Luna Snow, and they would be crazy to do so. But we already played out a video and we opened up 10 of these and we saw how bad it was. I speculated at the time that it might be somewhat worth it to risk it or to chance it as a very new player to get, for example, a bio subscription only character like 2099, like Enchantress. If you couldn't get them from your 3 free days, and if you couldn't rank them up somehow, you could potentially pull them at 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 stars. But as you can see, the chances of getting one particular character are astronomically low. There's a 6% chance to get them at 3 stars, and it just gets lower and lower and lower to being like 0.000% of a chance at 6 stars. So my 5-star pull, I think, of Agent Venom or Kid Kaiju from that video was coming up on extremely rare in terms of it was like 1/8% of a chance that I actually pulled that premium character at 5 stars. So, you know, just short story. Remember, stay away from this chest. Finally, I want to cover the card chest and the premium gear chest, the CTP chest or the kind of extreme obelisk chest. I want to first start with this one because I think these two are the most purchased. And I think if you figure out and if you look at the value that these items bring to your account, the most logical conclusion you can draw is that the card chest is the best option. It's the best worst option because if you pull a good card, that affects 150 characters up to immediately, whereas if you pull a CTP, it's good for one character. Yes, you can unequip it and re-equip it, but that's costing you hundreds of crystals every single time. So I'll cover this one next, and then I'll do the last one for the, and I'll leave the best one for last, technically speaking. The custom gear chest, not much better than the IS-08 or the premium hero, but it's actually surprisingly the best odds that you have. A 1% chance, yes, 1% chance to get a CTP from the custom gear chest when it is the chance increased. So right now, if I pop this 10 times, like if I press it once to buy 10, there's a 1% chance that I will get this CTP of destruction. It's not exactly 1%, it's not guaranteed. If I open this 100 times, I'm not guaranteed to get a CTP of destruction. That's not how percentages work, but on average, you will see every 100 times, every 6,750 crystals you spend, you should see on average one CTP of destruction. But you might see another CTP, or you might see none, or you might see more than one. But 1% is about in line with what you can compare from other games. And I don't want to do too much of a comparison to other games because really people that are watching this video are just concerned about Marvel Future Fight. So long story short, again, the rates are really bad. And unless you're in a top alliance, unless you really need this and you have the crystals to spend, don't risk it. It's just not worth it. And there's a really good chance, as you can see, that you're gonna come away with complete garbage. And you can even see for a 6-star obelisk, these ones right here, these extreme ones, the rates are terribly low. They're actually lower. They're 75% lower at a 1/4% chance than they are for CTPs. So it's just really bad news all around. And then finally, we come to the card chest probability. The card chest probability, I want to spend a tiny bit more time talking about because it gets a little bit complicated. And it gets a little bit complicated because Netmarble introduced 2 new types of cards, kind of unbeknownst to us. We have, of course, the premium cards with the shiny kind of glitter effect, and the P in the top left-hand corner, kind of hard to miss. Those are the rarest cards. Those are the cards that you're, of course, aiming for overall. And you can see from the chance grid and from the table that those have the lowest percent to drop. The premium in blue at 0.013, so less than 1/8 of a percent chance, which is crazy low. But on top of that, there's a different percent chance to get just the regular cards from this rotation. So the Spider-Man 1999 has actually a different loot table chance than the Gwenpool one. Same with the Shield one. It's actually different than this one. So while they're all chance up, they still have different odds among them, which further complicates things. And if you take a look at the list of cards, they've divided these into 4 different categories. You have the Korean cards, which are still premium cards in my, as far as I'm concerned, but I guess they're entered into the loot table differently. You have the premium cards, which are the ones with the P that we've known to expect as the most highly regarded ones. Then we have these new set of rare cards, and then we have just everything else. And as you can see from the original probability table, everything else is the majority of what you're going to get. So again, I reiterate, unless you have a lot of crystals to spend, unless you're the type of person who's really trying to push to be among the top players and to keep up with the most competitive players in a game that's not really competitive in terms of what's available to be competitive in, you might think about purchasing this card chest. But for everybody else, you're much better off investing your crystals in things like uniforms, in things like mega rank up ticket feature shop sales, or even these custom gear packs are much better offerings. For just 75 extra crystals, you're guaranteeing yourself 5 stars, whereas from the regular custom gear chest that I was just talking about, you save 75 crystals and you're only guaranteed 1 5-star. So you basically get 4 extra 5 stars plus some clear tickets and some gold for just 75 crystals. this is not a good deal by any means. I'm not saying this is a good deal. It's an okay deal, but you can see that guaranteed value is really where you're going to want to invest your crystals if you are playing intelligently, and if you're just playing casually or even semi-competitively. It's really only for the top 16 teams in Alliance tournament that should be considering those card chests and those obelisk chests in any form. The only other players outside of the top 16 teams, in my opinion, that should be considering those chests are people who just want to try their luck. I'm not saying you should. I'm just giving you my opinion on who should probably think about it, or maybe, you know, where you can kind of sort players if you wanted to. I don't really mind, or I don't really care if you do spend your crystals on those chests or not. I have no judgment on you, because of course I do it. But at the end of the day, they're your crystals, and you can do with them as you please, regardless of my advice and regardless of my opinion. So keep that in mind. Finally, I want to touch on the silver lining of this issue, because there is something good to be pulled out of all these really small, really bad numbers, and that is that Netmarble is being transparent. And while it doesn't look good from the point of view of our chances to get something, and while I would much prefer Netmarble to bump up these rates, I would much prefer Netmarble to put in a pity timer and say, you know, after every 10 pulls you're guaranteed an extra CTP if you haven't already pulled one, or, you know, after 8 pulls you're guaranteed a CTP, or you're guaranteed, you know, 5 6-star obelisks or something, just to make the investment worth something, and to decrease, not kill, but just decrease the amount of variance between the most lucky player and the most unlucky player, because that, I think, is what is causing a lot of discomfort in the community, is that there's such a gap between the people who get really unlucky and spend tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of crystals and get nothing, and then players who spend 1,000 crystals and they come away with a double, triple jackpot. It's rare, but it happens. And if that gap was shortened just 20-25%, it would make players a lot more comfortable to have this kind of gambling thing and this loot thing around. But it is a good sign to see that whether they were coerced or whether they were kind of put in a situation to do it, that they did get out in front of this and they published the probability tables. I would have much rather Netmarble published these months ago, or even when the game was first released, of course, but it's just not in the community or not in the industry's best interest right now. And I know that's not what you want to hear, because it's not your best interest, but that's just kind of how life works. We don't always get to have companies take our best interests and keep our best interests in mind. But with these changes, we can hope that Netmarble will continue to make the right decision and do things going forward that are going to be beneficial for us and therefore beneficial for them. Because if they're open, if they're transparent, and if they make, you know, fair-ish situations for us to exist in and potentially you know, invest in with our money and with our crystals, it's a better overall experience for the player, and then it becomes a better overall experience for the company involved. So I wanted to cover this because I was asked a lot on Twitter, through the YouTube comments, on Twitch, to give my opinion on it. Of course, I think the drop rates are really low, and I wish they were higher, and I do want, if anyone at Netmarble is listening, a pity timer for the CTPs and the card chests for all players. But having said that, I do want to outline the silver lining that them coming out and releasing them and being honest and upfront about it, kind of, is a positive step in the right direction, and it bodes well for the future of this game. And if there's ever any new item introduced into the game that also has a chest attached to it, like, I don't know, something beyond CTPs, some kind of badge or pet or something like that, that they immediately release the probability tables for that as soon as the new item is released, and that it's not introduced into the store with a question mark behind it. So let me know what you guys think of the probability tables. Let me know if you tried your luck after they were released to see if you got luckier or less lucky. I tried once and I was unlucky. Subscribe if you enjoyed the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Whoa. Take care.